So one quarter panel on my 69 Chevelle was repaired with a homemade patch, and the other side was repaired with the patch from OPGI. In my last video I described how I discovered that the quarter panel patch purchased from OPGI didn't come down far enough to mate with the inner trunk panel like the factory piece did. It was as if they deliberately left out an inch of steel off the edge of the panel. It's possible someone with a lot less rust would find this patch perfectly fitting the repair they need to do. That is not the case for me. I had more rust, both sides needed a repair patch on the fender well. Comparing my homemade patch to fitting the purchased patch, I would say if you're reasonably handy and you have a sheet metal brake, you should feel quite welcome to make your own patch and not bother buying one. I did find it helpful to put some welding on the inside. That's a problem with my homemade patch, was that I kept it as small as possible and it was so low to the point where I couldn't do any welding inside the trunk because I couldn't get to the other side of the seam. One place that was difficult on my homemade patch was the lower rear part of the patch has a curve up and in towards the middle on it, and for me to reproduce this I had to cut a slit down my patch that was too square and bow it in and then weld it up. The rust was quite a bit worse on the left hand side of the car. I needed to put in additional patches for the inner wheel well, puckered out a little there as well. But one thing that's nicer about this reproduction patch than the one I made is that it goes higher on the quarter panel, and so I will have the option of putting a hammer and dolly on it here and getting a bit of welding on the back of it. Now, because it's a pretty simple one-directional curve up here above the line, I'd consider going as high as you need to get access on both sides. The only thing is, if you don't need to go that high in the wheel arch, I don't know how you'd want to finish that. Maybe just square down. Now the situation is, I don't have a flush, flat, full penetration seam weld along this panel, but little high spot there I bumped down with a hammer. So everything's about right. Got a hole. Small patches like this are pretty easy now. I'm happy to just get the shape pretty close and you tack it in where it matches up really well, and you just push the patch around with the clamp, or you can just hold the handle of a hammer up against it, push it where it needs to be and put a spot on it. I did this without a sheet metal brake. I was bending my sheet metal in a vise and working with hammers and dollies. Here is the filler panel to go between the purchased rear quarter panel patch and the drop down panel of the trunk, where it just didn't turn in far enough and there was a gap there. Now this was pretty quick and easy, but I still feel that a repair patch on the edge of a panel should get to the edge of the panel. Plug welds along the bottom. I've seamed up that filler panel, knocked the top off the welds. I'm happy with everything except this main visible horizontal weld across the quarter panel, where I'm considering running a hotter liner weld across it to make sure I have good penetration and good joining quality all the way across it.